Hello everyone, welcome to AI Anytime channel. In this video, we are going to see that how we can deploy a large language model on RunPod. So if you don't know what RunPod is, it's a GPU provider. You can also call it a GPU rental provider to be more specific. That basically helps you get started or up and running with the large language models. Basically, when you don't, if you don't know how to work with large language model or how to deploy an LLM, sometimes it's very difficult to select an open source model and then try to configure and deploy it on clouds like AWS, SageMaker, Azure Machine Learning Platform, or the GCP Vertex AI. Now what RunPod does is that it's easy to set up. It's really affordable. If you look at the GPU rate, I think it's among top two or top three in the world. There are other competitors of RunPod like Lambda Labs, Vast AI, and SageMaker and things like that. Right? But RunPod is the one of the most affordable GPU rental providers. So you can, spin off a GPU of your choice, and you can work with large language model from serverless deployment where you don't have to worry about the servers and thing. They will set it up everything for you, and you can just use a spin off a template and just work with that. The other is also fine tuning. RunPod also support through these different tools, like text generation, inference, Uba Boga, and a lot of other, tools that you can use, Unsloth, Llama Factory, and things like that, right? So it's specifically for deploying and fine tuning large language models. So there are different tools for both the purposes, and RunPod helps you with all. It's one of my favorite provider as well for GPUs. For my fine tuning, training, I basically use RunPod. And I'll show you how easy it is to, deploy a large language model, and you can just play around it for your use cases. You can just take a use case, you can experiment with it, just in 5 minutes. So let's see that how we can do it here. Now, if you look at on my screen, I am on Mistral 7B instruct model. So Mistral is a large language model that has been created by a French startup named Mistral AI. And they are creating a lot of noise. They are doing great stuff, and OpenAI can, sense the heat there. They are a bit of FOMO going on between the open source and the closed source. And you can see I'm going to use their 7B instruct version 0.2 model. So that is 0.1, 0.2. You can also look at, I also have a Japanese LLM because sometimes you also want to play with other LLMs which are like, different languages like Japanese, Italian, French, Chinese, Mandarin, or whatever. Now, you can take any model from Hugging Face. It will be that easy because I'll show you how I'm going to do that. You can see I already have a pod running. So basically it provides you GPU pod and the CPU pod depending on how big your model is. You don't always need a GPU. So for example, if you want to use a GGUF model, you can just spin up a CPU. You don't need GPU every time. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, depending on which model you select, and now you have identified a model. Now let's see how we can, initiate a pod. I'll first show you what I already have done it. You can see this is, if you expand this is how it looks like. I am running already created template by RunPod, and that's called the block LLMs. If you can look at over here, so we are using the block template on RunPod. Block is famous for creating quantized LLMs model on Hugging Face. Now you can see I have a 5 GB disk space left after all the things that I have done, and 100 GB pod volume. So there are two things. One is volume and the other is a container. So container is like not persisted. So every time when you exit or stop the pod, everything will be deleted within the container. So you don't have to worry about it. Volume is persisted. So for example, if you download files, load files, keep it in that volume, and if you stop the pod, that will be deleted as well. So excuse me, it will not be deleted. The container will get deleted, volume will be there. So volume is basically persisted, so that get persist in the directory. Now you can look at, I have a A100 GPU that's called 1 into A180 GB. It's an A100 is an acronym for Ampere 100, by the way, if you don't know. And I'm using the 80 GB VRAM and 16 CPU and 125 GB RAM. So that's good enough for a 7B model. And that's what I have done. You can see I'm using a secure cloud. I'll show that there are two types of cloud on RunPod. One is secure cloud, the other is community cloud. Community cloud is more affordable because it's community, so it's more interruptible. So the same pod can be, used by the same cloud clusters can be used by different users. So if there's more load, you might face some interruptions in your work. So that's basically community cloud. Secure cloud is more where you have a secure and very much self-explanatory. Everything remains same. You have a private access to that particular pod that you can use it. That's what secure cloud is. Now you can see right now it says exited, where I have exit the pod. I'm not using it, but I will spin this up. You can see it says start for 1.89. So I'm paying around 1.89 dollar per hour. It's around, basically around 150 rupees or something in Indian currency, and cheaper. Now what you have to do in that case, you have to click on this start. Now once you click on this start, you can see I have 1 into 880 GB. I'm going to start the pod, and you can see it start showing you the start container, stop container. So all the logs you can see it over here. Now I'm first showing you a live demo of how we are going to do this, and then we'll go up and start a new pod here. We'll create a new pod. I'll show you how you can do that, and programmatically as well how you can do that as well. Now you can see that it says pod utilization, pod uptime, disk utilization. You can see how much storage I have been already occupying, due to the files and whatnot. And you can find out all the description over here. Then you can also go to connect. Once you go to connect, so let me show you a few things. One is in the more actions, you can edit the pod. So you can increase the volume sizes and etc. But then again, that will cost you a bit of money per hour. So you can edit the pod as well. Let me go to connect. Now once you click on connect, you will see a few things appears over here. The one is called connect to HTTP service port 5000 and the HTTP service port 786 not. Now I'm already using a tool, the block template, which provides me a Gradio application, to work with. And that's why you can see it says connects to HTTP service port 7 or 6 not. Now, once you click on that, it opens, you can see it uses a port, and it uses your pod ID and then proxy.runpod.net. Now, you'll see a Gradio application over here on the screen, and you can find out my past chat. You can see this is the chat, and I'll show you which model I've been using in this example. So this is a Gradio application. The first part is called chat. When you commit for the first time, you will have no model loaded over there. So you have to go to the model, and in the model, you can see I have a none right now, but I've already loaded ELIZA Japanese Code Llama 7B Instruct. So ELIZA is a Japanese model that has been fine-tuned on Llama 2, and you can see I'm using their Code Llama 7B Instruct model. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is, this is where you can download a model or a LoRa. Now imagine if you want to bring Mistral, this model, into this RunPod Gradio app that you are using, text generation web UI. If you don't know, I'm writing it wrong, but it will get it right. So if you look at, this is what we are using here. So this has been integrated into that template, text generation web UI by Uba Buga. Okay, tough to pronounce it, by the way, but fantastic, right? The work that they have done for the open source community. So this has been integrated in a template and had been, RunPod basically have created different containers and images for you, and you can just spin up and you will be ready to use that. Now, here you can see download model or LoRa. For example, when you commit for the first time, you will have nothing over there. So just come here and paste this here. If you are using if you're not using a quantized model, in case a GGUF model, then you have to give the entire Hugging Face path repository and then also the file name for GGUF model. So let me show that what I mean by that. Let's go on the block Hugging Face repository. Let me just go it over here and the block. And then let me take this model. Which model we can take? Let's take any famous model. Let's take Code Llama Python 70B GGUF, one of the latest model by Meta AI. Now, if you want to work with Code Llama 70B Python GGUF model, then you can just take any one of these files. For example, if you want to use the medium GGUF 4-bit quantized, you can just copy this path and just give it over there in this file name. So basically, you have to define the file name that it will download the GGUF model. So, and then just hit download. Once you hit the download, the model will get downloaded in the volume that you have persisted. So this is how you can load a model. So I'm not doing it right now. I'll just show you how to load. Now, once you load the model for the first time, you have to do a refresh and the model will be available here. So for me, in this case, you can see a Japanese code llama model is visible. So let's click on that and now let's load. Once you click on load, what happened? You can see it says loading model. Sometimes RunPod has this issue where connectivity might be a problem. Okay. Now I have the settings for have been updated. Now when you come to chat, you can see I already have a couple of chats that I have already have done some chat previously. You can see this is, and you can see I have a code here. Let me just copy this code, by the way. I'll just copy this code. I'm just gonna copy this. Let me just copy, and I'm gonna write below is my code. Write the code documentation in Japanese language. Now, once you click on generate, if the model is not loaded, it will throw you an error. Okay, so we'll see that. And you said AI is typing. You can see I've written the code documentation in Japanese for your program, and it's giving you the output. Here it is code documentation, blah, blah, blah. You can see it's generating that. Very simple. This is extremely helpful if you want to set up a large language model for your use case. You can see it's a Gradio application by text generation web UI by Uba Booga. We are using it that easy to deploy, and you can test it out. It also has a lot of customization. You can do a bit of prompt engineering. You can also say which kind of mode you are looking for, chat instruct. You can change the chat type, a bit of themes, and all of those things over here. So I'm not that worried about those. Now the good thing about text generation web UI is that you can also fine tune. If you look at the training, and I'll show that in the next video. I'm also creating a video on how to use this to fine tune. You can see you can bring your own data and fine tune it on RunPod with ease. You don't have to worry about a lot of infra and configurations and things like that. Now it has a notebook also. You can see the markdown, the notebook, the HTML, tokens, everything. Default, lot of configuration you can do it, but the model is the part. So in the model, you can see it supports transformers, it supports Llama CPP. So for example, if you don't want to go with A100 GPU, you don't have that much of affordability for the compute power, you can go ahead with Llama CPP or C transformers created by Marella, fantastic framework to work with. You can select any other of the other examples as well, but I'm going to go with the base transformers, and I have this model. You can configure the load in 8-bit, 4-bit, use double quantile quantization, things like that. Flash attention to, for Mistral and stuff, you can use flash attention, but for Phi 2 it's not enabled yet while I'm creating this video. So you can basically configure this. How do you want to deploy and use that. Now how can you do this programmatically and also on the pod? So far I'm just gonna close this. So let me just close this here. I'll just stop this. Once I stop, they charge it for volume storage, which is like 0.028 per hour. You can see now I have stopped that pod, and once I run it again, you will see it will not work. It says the not found. Right now so basically you can fully control it. Okay, and you can also use an API. I'll show it programmatically. Let me open Google Colab quickly to show you how you can do this. I'll just not run the program because it will cost me a bit of money, but I'll just show you how we can do it programmatically. It's very easy to do that, not rocket science. Now, yeah, I'm gonna do new notebook, and here I will show you. But first thing what I'm gonna show you is that if you want to do your own, how can you do that? Now that's the important here, because I already have it's already have basically set up for my experiment. But what if you want to do on your own? So let me first show you what you have to do. You have to click on GPU pod, and let me show you from the left hand side. If you come to home, you will see a home, like an overview of your dashboard for whatever uses we have done. Then you have explore. You can explore RunPod templates. You can search, for example, let's see how the search happens. Something, it's fine. And I'm gonna go on pods where you saw all the pods. Then you have serverless, and serverless is important because that's what I was talking. For example, if you quickly want to deploy and get a custom endpoint that you can use it as an API in LangChain or just like a request module of Python, how can you do that? So this is how you can do that. It supports these models. It has Llama 13B is the only large language model that it supports right now, but it has stable diffusion a lot. It has automatic 1111, stable diffusion XL, stable diffusion 1.5, and things like that, right? Now it has faster whisper for a speech to text model based on C translate, so extremely faster. Now they're coming up with the other models as well very soon. But if you click on start, it's very easy to just deploy it. So I'm not going to do that here. You can create an endpoint completely serverless, you can see. So you don't have to worry about server setting up, a virtual machine or, installing CUDA and things like that. They will do it everything for you. Just click on start, wait for a few minutes and use it as an API endpoint. Now, what I'm going to show you more is that we have storage. You can create a new network volume. We have a lot of templates that you can create a new templates. You have a secret key, settings, billing. So I'm not going to do so all of those things. Now, when you click on a GPU pod, you can see it says choose template. We'll show that. Now here you have latest generation and the old generation of GPU. So A100 is an old generation GPU. Ampere 100 now in the latest we have H100. We have RTX, RTX 4090, RTX 6000 ADA. You can see these are the new generation. They have listed all the pricing depending on what pricing you are going ahead with, and you can also find out the previous generation. For example, if you want to deploy a A100, you can also do that. But for bigger LLMs, you might need 2 or 3 A100. You can see it supports maximum 8 A100 that you can support. Yeah, but this is what it is. Now, let me click on deploy and see what it does. Once you click on deploy, you can see in the left hand side a bit of configuration of the infra, and in the right hand side you can select a template. If you don't want to select any template and want to go ahead with PyTorch as a base template, as a backend to work with language models or large language models, you are free to do that as well. You can see it's by default, it selects PyTorch 2.1. Now here you can search and come down and you will see something called the block. So you have to do RunPod, the block LLMs, and then you can do a bit of customizations. You can see I'm non-interruptible because I'm using the secure cloud. You can again, and this thing you can again increase it, the volumes, container volume, disk volume later. And then you have to click on continue, but I'm not going to do that because then again it's going to cost me. I already have shown you my previous pod. So let me just go to pod, and you can see once you do that, you will be seeing something like this. It will appear. Now that is on from dashboard. How you can do it programmatically, because I think that should be your areas of interest. Let me show that quickly. I'll just show you. I'm not going to run that, but I'll give you the program as a GitHub gist or a GitHub repository. So let me just call it RunPod setup. And here, what you have to do, you have to install RunPod. So let me just do pip install RunPod. You do pip install RunPod, and then you can write import. So you do import OS because you want to set up the API keys. So you do let it install, but I'm gonna just do import RunPod, and then I'm gonna do from IPython. So from IPython.display, it's installing RunPod, import display and markdown. So let's do that, display and markdown. Now these are the this should be import here, display and markdown. So these are the things that I need, and then I will just add some more code cells here, and I'm gonna just do, this is how you do it. So you do os.env, os.env, and then you can maybe keep it in a secret or keep it as a env file, or you can also use get pass to get it, runpod API key, and then your API key. So this is how you do it. And how will you get the API keys? You will get it here in the secret. So you go into secrets, you will see I don't have any secrets. So you have to create a secret. Also in the settings, you can find out the API key. So in the API key, you can see I have an API key that I will just delete it now. So here you can create an API key, click on API, and you can give it a permission of read write depending on what kind of workflow you want to manage. You can do that. Now let me just run this. Now once you run it, it says invalid syntax because I forgot to give a comma over here. Let's do that, and now you'll see it will be able to show you the thingy. Okay, it says no module named IPython. Okay, that is surprising, IPython, because I forgot to give this as P. Okay, so that's a typo. Now os.env is done. Now what you're gonna do next is you say Maybe you can do it like this as well. So runPod API key equals, and you get a runPod API key os dot get env. You can also do that, runPod API key, and then you can pass your key here. Okay, so you can just do, I'm just keeping it here. Maybe you can do your API, but it's fine. You can understand how to fetch an API key. Now you can do an if else, if not runPod API key, raise is not fine. Things like that, right? Something like this. You can just do it. Now this is how you can get a GPU. So for example, all if you want to find out all the visible GPUs for you, what kind of GPU that you can use, you can do just do run pod get underscore GPU. You can see it suggests here get GPUs, and you can just do it. So I'm not running it because I haven't set up the keys. Get GPUs. Now I'll show you how you can create a pods, and I'll give that gist in GitHub gist in the description. I'll create a pod, and you say there is a function of run pod dot create pod. Now you can just create a pod programmatically. If you don't have access to run pod or the dashboard, how can you do it programmatically, and how you can use it through LangChain when you want to inference it. So run pod dot create pod, and then you can define a lot of things. First, you can see it's a model name. So model is a string. For example, if I say llama 213b and things like that, right? You can find it out the name in the repository name. You can give it a name, and then image name. I'll give that image name. You give an image name over here. There's basically a container name kind of a thing that comes from basically text generation inference Docker image, and then you have a GPU type. So here you define a GPU type. Now GPU type, you can give it GPU type or GPU type ID, not GPU type, just by ID for that. And for example, if you have A100, then you have to do things like this: NVIDIA A100 80 GB, and then you just do PCIe. That's the ID on, and you'll get that in the when you run the above command. And then you can do a cloud type if you want secure or you want community. So then you do cloud type equals, and then you write, secure. So you do secure. So let me just write it over here, secure cloud type. And then you can also have Docker arguments and things like that. Okay, if you want to do it more customizable, you can do a Docker args. I'll give it to you this in uh, my repository. You can just get it. If you have deploying a bigger model like 13B or 40B or 30B or 70B, then you have to also consider how many GPU you need. So for example, A100 for 13B, if you're not using a GGUF, you might need a 2 GPU. So GPU count. Then you can also do volume in, and all of this, right? It will be suggested by 8 volume in GB. You say I need around 195 or 194, whatever. 195 container disk in GB. You can see all of it has been created. Container disk in GB, I'll say 10. And then you can also do ports. You can define ports. If you are running a Gradio, then you have to give it like, for example, 80, and then I need HTTP, and then I also need, for example, 295 not not, and then you also give HTTP. So you can define port. And last, what you can do is where you're gonna mount the volume. So let's do volume mount path, and then I'll give that as data. So this is how you can create, how you can initiate pod. You can create an entire configuration for your run pod, and then what you have to do, once you just run it, it will create a pod, and that pod will be visible on here inside pods. Okay. So you can do it two-way, programmatically or also directly from the dashboard. Dashboard is much easier. It's just like drag and drop and selecting some options. Programmatically, it's more, like where you write programs and control it and do it like that. Now, once you do that, how you gonna create an inference server? So LangChain has some integration with that. So LLMs import, and then you can just use Hugging Face. So I don't have LangChain installed here, that's why it's giving me that. But Hugging Face text generation inference. So they have text gen inference. You can just use that. So text gen inference is there. Then what you can do is you can define an inference server URL. So let me just do that. An inference server URL, and here you have to define that pod ID. So that will be basically your let me just show that. You will have your HTTPS, and I was showing you that proxy.runpod.net, right? So what it does here is it takes your pod ID. So let me just write it. So pod, and then it takes your ID that you have. So pod ID, and then after that, you have your whatever port you are running, and then just run pod.net. So just you will get it from the URL when you run that from dashboard, or if you just get it after this has been deployed. If you print that, it will print you as well. Now you can use the Hugging Face text gen inference, Hugging Face text gen inference, and not this, right? So let me just remove it. Now here you have inference server URL. Yes, you can see inference server URL, and that is nothing but the inference server URL that we have defined. So inference server URL, and I'll just remove this model name and path because we are using a deployed. Now you can define inference parameters like max new tokens. I'm gonna keep it like 512, and you can just completely customize the temperature, and then you can keep on adding things, and then when you have the LLM, you can just use that LLM inside some chains like retrieval QA or conversational memory and things like that. So this is how you can do it programmatically. I will give you already, I have a very good gist that I use it for programmatically set it up. Now RunPod is fantastic. I recommend you using RunPod for all your LLM experimentation, and it's more, you can control it. It's really affordable, and you can easily fine tune and create LLMs, right, for your specific use cases. I hope you understood how easy it is to set up a large language model. You can bring any LLM from Hugging Face, or you can use it GGUF quantized model through Llama CPP or things like that, right? C transformers and stuff. So this is what I wanted to create, guys, in this video. I hope you now, if you haven't worked with RunPod, you'll be able to work with RunPod very easy. Just go and create an account. You can do a Google login as well. You can see I have logged in with Gmail. You can put some money over here. You can see I have $10 minimum to put it through your credit cards. You can just put that and work with it. You can see there's a docs. You can just open docs, which is on a mission. Click on documentation, it will come, and you can just go ahead and work with it. Right. So if you have any question, thoughts, feedbacks, please let me know in the comment box. I'll be more than happy to help you. You can also reach out to me through my social media channels. Find those information on channel banner and channel about us. If you haven't subscribed the channel yet, please do subscribe the channel. If you haven't liked the video, please like now, and also watch other videos. We have more than 200 videos on generative AI. Please watch those videos. Share this video and channel with your friends and to peer. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.